Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are associated with the Mission Creek Festival coming up later this month in Iowa City. Andre Perry, who is the founder of that festival, and of course, these days, a little bit better known, or equally well known, I should say, as the director of Hancher Auditorium and the performances at the University of Iowa, is with us. Andre, welcome.
Great to see you, Dennis.
Yeah, nice to have you. And Nora Lang, who is an author who is going to be a part of the Mission Creek Festival, is here as well, joining us from her home in Utah. Nora, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
Before we talk specifically about Nora's project and what she's doing in association with the festival and a new wrinkle on the festival, Andre, Mission Creek has been around for a long time, but for those who may not be familiar or may have just heard the phrase uttered in the spring every year in Iowa City, but never totally knew what was going on. Tell me about the background and history and the goals of the festival.
Yeah, so the original Mission Creek Music and Arts Festival was created in San Francisco in the late 90s, early 2000s by a wonderful artist, professor, and just general mentor and good community guy, Jeff Ray, back in the day that I think was really celebrating the underground or just beneath the surface creative culture that was happening out there. There was a lot of music, but there was also a lot of art and intermedia, literature, and film happening with that festival. And Jeff and I were collaborators when I used to live in California. And with his grace, was able to co-found the Mission Creek Festival that happened in many years in its previous form in Iowa City, along with another guy, Tanner Illingworth. And that first event happened in 2006, and it grew over a 20-year period to be many things, but I think ultimately was really associated with being a music and a literature event with this deep commitment to the community. As Dennis, there's just so many creative people in the area that we live in who are playing music, who are writing and doing all sorts of things. And I think Mission Creek was trying to be, and maybe at its best, was a celebration of that. And for the last 10 years, it was produced by the Englert Theater right in downtown Iowa City. And the last festival that we had in April of 2025 was the last one that the Englert produced. And as we go into this new era, we are now Day Party, and it's a collaboration between Mission Creek Festival and, of course, Nina Loman's Brink, which is all things literary storytelling, which has been just a fabulous organization that we've had the honor of witnessing grow here in the Iowa City and Cedar Rapids area.
So, what will be happening on the day party?
So, Day Party, which is happening on Saturday, April 25th, is a single day celebration of music and literature and art, and also resurfacing our interest in food and celebrating the amazing local and independent chefs that are in our area, with a real focus on the Trumpet Blossom Cafe and Plated Table, which are on the south side of Iowa City. I think our goals for Day Party were, one, to celebrate the creativity that's happening here, and I think really bring it home. As you'll know, like, we just have a few guests coming in from out of town for this one. We're really looking at the creators who are here in Eastern Iowa making amazing art. A lot of them are writers and a lot of them are musicians, but there's also an openness to hybridity and interdisciplinarity happening in the fields that are here. And so there's so much creativity here. We're just, among many other organizations, just trying to make a little bit of space to see it, witness it, and celebrate it. And just remembering that everything doesn't have to be fitting into an Excel spreadsheet. Like, sometimes it's just important to see a thing and witness it, have a little bit of food, make some new friends. The world will keep us serious and keep us on edge and keep us anxious. So we have to make sure we're having a little fun too.
And that is a great introduction to Nora Lang, who is going to be visiting for Day Party on the heels of her new short story collection, which is called Daycare. See, Daycare, Day Party. See, it was meant to be. Nora's first novel, Us Fools, had generated wide acclaim. And Nora, you have some roots in the eastern Iowa and western Illinois area because your parents grew up in these environs.
Yeah, and they both went to the University of Iowa. So even specific roots to Iowa City. In fact, I was just, Andre, when before you joined us, was telling Dennis how my dad wrote saying that for about 10 years he played at the mill a local music, sounds like a bar and music venue that's now since shuttered. But yeah, and then my mom used to do the programming for the Bijou Theater. So yeah, it's when I was little, it didn't necessarily resonate the same way when I was like 7 as it does now. But she being my mother, take us back to visit friends and stuff back to Iowa City. The dreamiest place in the universe is it just looms effervescent in my mind. So yeah, I'm really excited to be going back.
So your current short story collection that you just did called Daycare, what was the thinking behind following your novel up with short stories?
To me, like the writing process is a practice, and I tend to just meet it where it is. So, for instance, if I have a short story in my mind, or that's what something's going to be, that's just what it's going to be. And sometimes, or a lot of the time, my day to day dictates what I'm capable of producing. And for me, a novel is a very immersive thing, and I don't do well with dipping in and dipping out. It's not for me. Some people are fantastic at it. I basically am like the Didion style where I need to sleep with it. I'm literally going to bed with the manuscript. But a short story is different. It's like a shorter tune. It gets lodged in my head. I have tons of things to work out. It's always a puzzle, but I'm able to access it more regularly and more quickly than something like a novel. So again, it's dictated by my day to day, but also by the project or the vision itself. So some of these stories to me, they can't be novels and they're not supposed to be. And then, like, for instance, the last one called A Celebration, that actually is taken from the novel, my second novel that I've just finished a draft of, that I just decided as an exercise to condense it down into this very brief short story. And then there were some other strategery involved, such as the New Yorker wanted a fresh new story they hadn't looked at. And I was like, I'm working on this manuscript. I can't write a brand new story. So I'm going to take this manuscript that I'm sleeping with, just as I told you, and I'm going to make a short story from it. No, these are from different times and places. And I think it's reflected in the collection as well, because some are in Providence, some in New York, some in Istanbul, place I lived. Mexico, I lived there. They move around, which I think reflects my life too. Yeah.
I would call it definitely a darkly comic collection of stories. The stories are funny. They are definitely funny, but it is the style of humor that comes out of people in tough or maybe even terrible situations.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. I'd like to think of myself as a pretty funny person and not entirely dire. But I do think sometimes that, yeah, maybe it's just a forever ode to Kafka, my hero. So
I asked you before we started rolling tape if you had a little segment that you might read for us from one of these stories so we can get a little taste of Daycare. And do you have that for us?
I do. Yeah. I was going to take your suggestion, Dennis, and read from the title story. Sound good? Okay. Daycare. The doorbell rang. Her dinging phone was ricocheting on her lap. She looked to find a flurry of texts that had come in from her mother, who wrote saying that she was at the airport in Los Angeles to see her daughter. Heavy storms were on the way. Her mother loved a good storm. Everything was happening at once. The house painters had arrived as her boss's small dogs barked in defense of their property. She removed the breadcrumbs from the table with her hands and thought about how she used to be a pretty good artist. Now she made bad mom art to care for herself. She had a dozen videos starring her daughter using plastic dinosaurs positioned inside of their refrigerator, make-believing existence. On her own time, she labored to convince herself that the mundane, the inappropriately, excessively lackluster soiled diapers, pumping while Googling trash pickup schedules, was enough to feel awake. Then her aching breasts were right there to remind her of her need for nature. She drove to the Los Angeles International Airport to pick up her mother as she had no other choice. Don't move to Orem. Utah's really a desert. Remember the dead squirrel? Her mother said, fresh off her flight from Portland, Oregon, hopping into her daughter's Honda Fit. She touched her mother's knee, bare, solid, beautifully familiar. Her mother refused to wear anything other than summer clothes when visiting her daughter in California.
Nora Lang reading from her short story collection, Daycare. Thank you for reading that for us, Nora.
Thank you, Dennis.
Andre, Day Party is coming up April 25th. How do we get tickets?
You can go to missioncreekfestival.com and there is a ticket link there. And there are both regular tickets and student tickets. I encourage you to get it and maybe not wait too long because we have a limited capacity.
Again, the Mission Creek Festival Day Party coming up April 25th with a variety of local and national entertainers, including Nora Lang coming and in support of her short story collection, Daycare. I want to thank you both for joining me today. And Nora, travel safely, and we'll look forward to hearing more from that story and the rest of your work when you're here in Iowa City.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you, Andre.
Thanks.
Thank you both for being here.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.